The courtroom buzzed with the usual hum of whispers and shuffling papers, but for Marcus Reed, it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. He sat at the defendant's table, his broad shoulders squared, his calloused hands folded neatly in front of him. His military fatigues were long gone, replaced by a second-hand suit that strained slightly at the seams, but his posture still carried the discipline of a man who'd served 2 tours overseas. Marcus wasn't nervous, not exactly. He'd faced worse than these: enemy fire, roadside bombs, the weight of decisions that meant life or death. But today, he was up against something different. Officer Daniel Hargrove, badge number 472, who sat across the room with the smirk that said he believed he owned the place. It started 6 months ago on a humid July evening. Marcus was driving home from his night shift at the warehouse, his old pickup rattling along the county road. His daughter, Ellie, was asleep in the backseat, her stuffed bunny clutched tight. He'd picked her up from her grandmother's after a 12-hour shift, bone-tired but careful to keep under the speed limit. That's when the blue lights flashed in his rear view. Hargrove swaggered up, his flashlight blinding, his voice dripping with condescension. "You know why I pulled you over?" he'd asked, not waiting for an answer. "Headlights out, step out of the vehicle." Marcus complied, calm but firm, explaining the headlight had gone out that morning and he'd already ordered a replacement. Hargrove wasn't interested. He ran Marcus's license, found nothing, but kept pushing, asking where he was going, why he was out so late, what was in the truck. Marcus answered politely, aware of Ellie stirring in the back seat, but Hargrove's tone sharpened. "You look like trouble," he'd said, writing a ticket for the headlight and adding a citation for obstructing an officer when Marcus dared to question the necessity of stepping out. It was a power play, plain and simple, and Hargrove's badge was his trump card. The ticket was just the beginning. Hargrove made it personal. Over the next few months, Marcus noticed patrol cars lingering near his house, tailing him on his commute. Another ticket came from proper lane change when he swerved to avoid a pothole. Then a warning for loitering when he was fixing a flat tire in a parking lot. Each time, Hargrove was there, his smirk wider, his pen quicker. Marcus, a single dad raising Ellie on a tight budget, couldn't afford the fines piling up, let alone a lawyer. But he wasn't one to roll over. He'd learned resilience in the desert, and he wasn't about to let some small-town cop with a god complex ruin him. The breaking point came when Hargrove pulled Marcus over again, this time claiming he'd failed to yield at a stop sign. Ellie, now awake and scared, started crying as Hargrove demanded Marcus exit the vehicle. "You're a repeat offender, Reed," Hargrove said, loud enough for bystanders to hear. "Maybe you're not fit to be driving with a kid in there." That was it. Marcus filed a complaint with the police department, detailing every interaction, every ticket, every instance of harassment. The department brushed it off. Hargrove was one of their own, a 15-year veteran with commendations and connections. But Marcus didn't stop. He requested a hearing, gathered his evidence, and prepared to face Hargrove in court. Now, here they were. The judge, a gray-haired woman with a no-nonsense reputation, peered over her glasses at the packed courtroom. Hargrove's lawyer, a slick type from the city, painted Marcus as a reckless driver, a malcontent who disrespected law enforcement. Hargrove took the stand, his badge gleaming, his voice steady as he recounted his version of events. Marcus was belligerent, non-compliant, a danger to the community. He leaned into his authority, confident the judge would see him as the hero, not the bully. Marcus, representing himself, stood when it was his turn. He didn't have a lawyer's polish, but he had something better: truth, and the quiet strength of a man who'd survived worse odds. He presented his evidence methodically, timestamps from his work schedule proving he was on his way home, receipts for the headlight he'd replaced the day after the first stop, dashcam footage from a friend's car that caught one of Hargrove's tailing incidents. He'd even tracked down a witness, a gas station clerk who'd seen Hargrove berate Marcus during the loitering stop. The clerk, a nervous young woman, testified that Hargrove had seemed angry, like he was looking for a fight. Then Marcus spoke about Ellie. His voice softened but didn't waver. "Your Honor, I'm a father. I work hard, I pay my taxes, I served my country. I don't want trouble. But this officer has made it his mission to make my life hell. And I can't let that stand. Not for me, not for my daughter. He placed a photo of Ellie on the table, her gap-toothed smile beaming from a school picture. The courtroom went silent. Hargrove's lawyer tried to spin it, accusing Marcus of playing the sympathy card. But the judge wasn't swayed by theatrics. She questioned Hargrove directly, her tone sharp. "Officer, can you explain why you issued 3 citations to Mr. Reed in under 6 months, when his record prior was clean?" Hargrove fumbled, repeating his claim about public safety, but his confidence cracked under the judge's stare. She pressed harder, asking for specifics on each stop, and Hargrove's answers grew vague, contradictory. The turning point came when Marcus presented a final piece of evidence, a public records request he'd filed, revealing Hargrove had a history of complaints of 6 in the past 3 years, all from low-income drivers, all dismissed by the department. The judge's eyes narrowed. She adjourned the court for an hour, returning with a decision that sent a murmur through the room. "Officer Hargrove," she said, her voice like steel, "your actions suggest a pattern of abuse of power. The citations against Mr. Reed are dismissed. Furthermore, I'm recommending an internal review of your conduct." She turned to Marcus. "Mr. Reed, you've shown remarkable restraint. This court apologizes for the hardship you've endured." Hargrove's smirk was gone, replaced by a flush of anger he barely hid. Marcus just nodded, thanked the judge, and walked out of the courtroom, his head high. Outside, Ellie ran to him, her bunny tucked under her arm. "Did we win, Daddy?" she asked. "Yeah, baby," Marcus said, lifting her up. "We did." Word spread fast. By evening, the local paper ran a story: "Veteran Dad takes on rogue Copa and wins." Hargrove was suspended pending investigation, and whispers started about others coming forward with similar stories. Marcus didn't care about the headlines. He went back to work, fixed his truck, and tucked Ellie in that night with a story about courage, not badges. As for Hargrove, he learned a hard lesson: a badge doesn't make you untouchable, especially when you underestimate a man like Marcus Reed.